Election Countdown Nigeria on Breakfast Central, where we talk about all the behind the scenes stories that maybe you did not know about the elections. Today we're joined by Bolahon Olojede, who's joining us virtually. Good morning, Bolahon. Thank you very much for joining us. We're so sorry that you're stuck in traffic. It's a traffic caused by fuel scarcity, and that's the reality, unfortunately, of a lot of Nigerians. How are you holding up?
Yeah, it's a very sad situation. I mean, I left Kefi before 7:30. And as at 8 o'clock, I was still on Awolowo Road. 30 minutes. The entire stretch is not more than 10 minutes drive or even 5 minutes drive. But then almost all the stations were selling fuel. So there were queues everywhere on Awolowo Road.
Wow.
And that is very sad that as princes, we are living like beggars.
Well, these are one of the challenges that the current administration is experiencing. And President Muhammadu Buhari is hoping that he will leave a positive legacy and maybe leave a good taste in the mouth of Nigerians as regards the new Naira notes. But let's go into the interview he granted. Some of the things he has said. The first point he has listed is, number one, he said that 3 months is enough to get the new Naira notes. Do you agree with this?
100%. 3 months is enough if properly administered, if it is properly implemented. Why not?
All right, so what would you say is the case, the current situation? Because there have been people who have expressed their difficulty to be able to get access to the Naira. On the one hand, we hear people who are taking their money into the banks, they pay the old Naira notes, then they go to the ATM, withdraw, and still withdraw the old Naira notes. So is it that there is not enough money, enough new Naira notes in circulation? What exactly is the challenge that is causing, the insufficiency of new Naira notes as it seems?
Okay, the policy in the first instance was not meant to withdraw 1 million from the market and then pump exact 1 million back into the market. The policy was meant to withdraw much more than it will release into the market. And that is why somebody might have wanted to. Sorry, I got a distraction.
No, that's okay. That's fine. It's live TV.
Yeah. So that is why. Sorry.
All right. So whilst you're trying to sort what's going on there, it's important also to mention that from wherever you're watching, we would like to find out what your thought is and what the current position is as regards the Naira note. Have you been able to lay your hands on the Naira note? The central bank governor had said to people, had reminded Nigerians that they need to bring in their monies into the bank vault, the large sums, and that the anti-graft agencies will not be prosecuting those who have the large sums. Now, part of the reason that the CBN had given for this redesign of the Naira notes would be to bring a lot of the monies in circulation into the bank vault. And now the figures have started to trickle in. We're seeing that at the time when this was announced, we had out of the 3.23 trillion Naira in circulation, there was about 2.73 out of the bank vaults. But now we're seeing that 1.7 trillion has been brought back. All right, we have Bolahon Olojede. Bolahon, we're talking about how there is a challenge as regards the accessibility of this new Naira notes. And you're saying that, just like the president has said, that 3 months is enough for the exchange of old Naira notes for new Naira notes. What then is the problem?
The problem is the circulation of the new currency. So you have a situation in which a lot of ATMs still do not have this currency. I'm not saying people should go and sit down by the ATM and still be withdrawing cash the way they used to. I'm just saying that people who need 5,000 Naira, who need 2,000 Naira, should be able to access that much cash. So even if what that means is that we should have been able to cap how much an individual can withdraw, it will have helped. Because what that will have done is that people at the lowest rung of the ladder, the woman who wants to buy plantain and make boli, he probably doesn't need more than 10,000 Naira to do that business. So that kind of a person will be able to do it. But all those people who want to make big withdrawals who are doing big businesses, they don't have an excuse. The only problem that most of them are suffering from is resistance to change. Now, that issue of resistance to change as well will have been part of the administration of this initiative, in which the awareness, the campaign, the field monitoring by CBN to understand exactly how the program is is progressing in the field should have commenced much earlier. For example, CBN was in Ogun State yesterday, going from some villages to village to find out how the POS people are administering the new note that they have collected. Now, is that starting a bit late? Should it have started maybe like a couple of weeks? I would think so. I think it's starting a little bit late.
All right.
If we have done that, the people at the lowest rung of the ladder will not be suffering, but all these other big people, politicians and the rest of them, they can go do their transaction by transfer. You just ignore those ones. Ignore them.
So, like you mentioned, I'm going to quickly read out this tweet from someone his handle is Dawisu, and I think he does seem to agree with you. He says, many shops are closed in Kano. The ones open are not accepting Naira notes, old Naira notes. The customers don't have new Naira notes. Many local traders don't want transfer. They prefer cash. Public transport also very affected by this quagmire. Very good policy, terrible implementation. Now let's look at some of the other points that President Muhammadu Buhari listed as he, of course, granted the interview. He talked about his aim to make sure Nigerians believe that they are respected by his outgoing administration, also going ahead to say that they should vote for whoever they want to vote. But I'd like us to focus on the point where he said nobody will be allowed to mobilize thugs or resources to intimidate people, which is where the conversation about the old Naira notes and how this implementation of the new Naira notes can be used to prevent manipulation of votes, buying of votes. And I'd like you to sort of shed some light on that point.
Okay, he mentioned two words as far as he said thugs and then buying votes. Both of them are actually linked together. When you want to mobilize thugs for election purposes, you need cash. And if you want to buy votes directly using your own people, I mean, we saw how this has played out in the past, where some people will be going around with bags of cash and be offering voters inducement on election day. Whether you want to do any of those two things, you need cash. So one of the reasons why this cash initiative is being rolled out is to curb vote buying. When it was initially announced, I remember some politicians who were bold enough to say it would affect fundraising by the parties. And the question that came to my mind is, how does cashless affect you from raising funds? Are you raising fund in cash? Some said it will affect the rallies, you know, the event that they have to put. How does it affect the rallies? You are hiring microphone or you are hiring speakers and stage. Do you pay in cash? So
right.
Maybe the concern of those people was that they give cash to people to mobilize them to rallies. But now, if you want to do that, go and do it by transfer. So as far as I'm concerned, those politicians' complaints, they have no decent basis for their complaint. All of a sudden, they started loving the people from their constituency. Since when has that started? However, there are genuine concerns at those lowest rung of the ladder, and CBN should continue in the field operation that it is doing right now to know how those people are getting served. Otherwise, it will affect how they will vote. That is the reality. If the people are unhappy, they will put it on the government and they will ensure that the government does not get
Bolaho, I'm really glad that you mentioned the CBN. I'd like us to spotlight the conversation on the CBN, particularly the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, who has been in the news in more recent times. The Speaker of the House of Representatives have asked him to appear and basically make some explanations. There have been conversations as well as regarding his arrest. But he has had something to say. He recently spoke on the redesigned Naira note. So let's take a look at this video.
Is that when currency is issued, it will circulate. After some time, the old and worn-out ones will be returned back to CBN. So if the old and worn-out notes were returned back to CBN, there is no reason why currency in circulation will grow from 1.4 trillion to 3.23 trillion in 7 years. People are hoarding it. People are keeping vaults in their homes. We cannot allow them to be banks in their homes. They don't have the license to build bank vaults in their homes. They should release that money back to CBN, because what they are doing is that they are undermining monetary policy. They are keeping those monies to speculate against our currency, and it is making our work difficult in CBN. That for us in CBN, I use the word, is our own selfish interest. Other interest, yes. Is it they said those who are doing, who are holding ransom, right? Ransom taking or kidnapping? Oh no, I don't want to talk about that, please. So that is helping. And truly speaking, I'd imagine that, I mean, I may be wrong, maybe I'll be corrected. I think kidnapping and ransom taking are somehow reduced. Security agents are doing a fantastic job. But I think that it has slowed those people down because they know that if they collect old notes, it's not going to help them.
And yes, that was, of course, the CBN governor. Let's take a look at the breakdown of some of the points that he made. We have some graphics to show to highlight this. He says, banks were mandated not to pay new notes over the counter. All new bank notes should be paid through the ATM. Our Mint is producing new notes that will eventually be in circulation. People are keeping vaults in their homes and hoarding the old Naira notes. People don't have the right to keep banks in their homes. New notes has reduced the spate of kidnapping. And I'd like to start with the fourth point here, fourth and the fifth point here, talking about people keeping vaults in their homes. Bola, you're the expert here. Maybe you can break it down to those who are not financial experts, because part of the reason that the CBN gave, or the central bank governor gave, for the redesign of the Naira notes was to bring all this unbanked money into the commercial vaults of the banks. And we're seeing that a lot of that has happened. Over 1 trillion Naira, I would say, has come back into the bank. But for the average person who is thinking, is it not my money? I choose to do what I want to do with my money. If I want to keep my money in my house, I keep my money in my house. What is the importance? Why is it important for one to keep the money in the bank as opposed to making their house their bank?
Okay, there are several reasons. Number one, there are cost implications to cash processing. So a heavily, a cash-based economy imposes certain undue cost on the financial services system. And some of the costs that other people are bearing have to do with the costs that are imposed by cash. I worked in a market branch of a bank before, in fact, a couple of market branches. And when you see 10, 12 bulk tellers counting money from Monday till Saturday, and they're still not done, that is absolutely inefficient, and it brings a lot of cost onto the system. It's avoidable. Number two is the fact that it breeds corruption. In fact, the number one attraction of politicians to cash is that cash leaves no traces. So when people are doing dirty related transactions, they don't want the traces to be left anywhere. And cash allows you to do that. You just give people the cash and it is gone. So whether it is kidnapping you are talking about, it is good for it. Whether it is settlement, you want to buy what you want to do, all the dirty things you can think about in the world, cash allows it. It supports money laundering, makes money laundering to be easy. So for that reason, we need to migrate onto cash. I have no doubt about that at all. But you see, it still does not take away the fact that we must be careful of possible implications for the people at the lowest rung of the ladder. And for people who are keeping vaults in their homes, I don't care. If you have vault in your home, you have had 3 months to go and empty it and take it to the bank. Practically, if we go into the technical side of things, like you want to look at the M1 money and the rest of it, it will show that if you are looking at the M1 money, then the cash portion is actually a small percentage of the M1 money. So the implication for you help us to control inflation and all the rest is actually minimal. I don't think that these are the real focus of this initiative.
So is the real focus from your perspective basically to be able to reduce the election malpractice?
Reduce election malpractice and see how we can migrate a few more people onto the electronic platform, okay, which has implications also.
Would you quickly shine some light on some of the implications, that maybe one or two of them?
Yes, because the more people we bring into the formal financial system, the more we are able to keep track of the financial system in itself. If tomorrow we need to bring more people into the tax net, for example, the fact that they are already in banking makes it easier, makes it possible for these people to be brought into banking, into the tax net. Right.
All right. Thank you very much, for highlighting that. There are some other angles, to this conversation that I would like us to look at. But we have updates about the Speaker of the House of Representatives calling for threatening to arrest Emefiele. Now, we know that he said he will issue a warrant of arrest if he doesn't appear before the House. And instead of adjourning to the 28th of February, the Speaker of the House of Representatives says he would issue a warrant of arrest. And he says instead of adjourning to the 28th of February for the elections as planned, they will reconvene on Tuesday to take an action against Emefiele and other bank chiefs who failed to show up, invoking sections of the law. Would you say in this case that they maybe have a case against him? Has the CBN governor committed any offense? Has he committed any crime that is answerable before the House? Do they really have strong points against him? Because there have been speculations about his arrest, and we've heard about strong security presence at the CBN headquarters. So would you say that he's maybe committed an offense and there's something strong that they have against him?
I don't think he has done anything illegal. The law empowers him to do what he has done, and the approval that he requires has nothing to do with National Assembly. It requires the approval of the president, and he got the approval of the president. I don't also believe that the legalese will issue a bench warrant or all the rest. This is the way that will resolve this matter. The best thing that will happen is an engagement, not an arrest. But apparently, I think National Assembly is feeling frustrated because Emefiele has not made himself available for engagement. I don't think there's anything wrong with engagement. If I were Emefiele, I will actually have the engagement and I will present my reasons. If I think that this deadline should not be shifted, I will present my reason why I believe it should not be shifted. And let them also convince me of their reasons why they believe it should be shifted. Then we can have a dialogue and decide whether we should shift it or not. And I can still insist on my position if I feel justified. But totally avoiding engagement, I don't think is the right approach to this matter. He can actually sit down with them and still maintain his position if he thinks he has a position.
All right, we will, of course, see how this eventually turns out. Will he appear before the House and what happens next? But it's time to say thank you for joining us this morning and for highlighting and sharing further light. You're the expert. Some of us have better understanding of this conversation now. So thank you very much for joining us. And I hope you're able to make it back without the fuel queues that have been caused as a result of fuel scarcity.
We'll go survive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.